Around for the full video, guys. There is a lot to cut through here.
Crystal clear about the problem. There are two leading causes of inflation we're seeing today. The first cause of inflation is a once-in-a-century pandemic. Not only did it shut down our global economy, it threw the supply chains and demand completely out of whack, especially in countries where more effective recovery responses weren't available, especially in those sectors that rely on semiconductors. And this year we have a second cause. Mr. Putin's war in Ukraine. We saw in March that 60% of inflation that month was due to price increases at the pump for gasoline. Putin's war has raised food prices as well, because Ukraine and Russia, two of the world's major breadbaskets for wheat and corn, are essentially
lot, and I mean a lot of bullcrap to cut through on this one right here. What's up, guys? John Claymore here. Now we're going to try to cut through a lot of this bullcrap that Joe has been saying about the economy and the actual economic situation. And guys, by the way, this video will also be on both channels, and also the updates video will be out tomorrow. So let's go ahead and talk about this. First off, semiconductors. Okay. Semiconductors. Let's talk about this. So the United States is actually one of the leading producers in semiconductors. Okay, I will be leaving a video from Stephen Michael Davis to further explain that one in the description box. It has to do with Sagar and Getty and one of his very dumb statements. But I'll be leaving that video in there to provide a little bit more context on that right there. But also something else too, to go back to semiconductors. Right now, Joe, you've still got the National Defense Act still in place. You've not actually undone that. So, of course, production line when it comes to semiconductors, especially when it comes to stuff like cars and stuff, that right there is kind of installed, and we're kind of playing catch up. Hence the price of cars going through the roof, especially used vehicles going through the roof. Also, Mr. Putin, we'll be talking about him momentarily here in a second. But let's go ahead and watch some more of this stuff.
By the time it takes to get anything done, believe me, I understand the frustration. But the fact is, congressional Republicans, not all of them, but the MAGA Republicans are counting on you to be as frustrated by the pace of progress, which they've done everything they can to slow down, that will hand power over to them and so they can enact their extreme agenda. Look at their agenda. We'll put up on a webpage somewhere, I think I can do this, the Scott Plan. It's in writing.
Yeah, Joe, about those MAGA Republicans, this is not exactly what we call a strong appeal or a strong argument, especially considering the fact that your approval rating right now in the aggregate is below 40%. I just want to throw this out here. Okay, so you're telling us now that MAGA Republicans are the reason why. Okay, so let's talk about this just for a second. Joe, right now you've got, with Kamala Harris, the vice president, you've got a 51-50 lead in the Senate. Now, of course, it takes 60 votes to get legislation done. It takes 51 to get things like tax cuts, tax increases, things of that such right there done. By the way, the mainstream media does not like to tell you guys this, but I'm here to tell you this right here now, because obviously I'm the alternative to that. But here's the deal, okay? If you count Mitt Romney, Lisa Murkowski, and Susan Collins, Joe, you've actually got 4 of the senators. You've got 4 rhino Republicans who say they're Republicans, but they're really are not. You've got that. You've also got a very, very slim, but you still have a majority in the United States Congress to get these things done. So, no, Joe, MAGA Republicans saying that MAGA Republicans are the reason why nothing is getting done on inflation, that has got nothing to do with them. Now, before we talk about some of the other dumb takes that we've been hearing, I want to kind of go ahead and answer this one about Putin. Okay, so you're saying that Ukraine is like this great big bread basket for like food and supplies and grain and wheat. Russia is also a very, very big supplier of grain and wheat and fertilizer. However, Joe, the United States of America has got a lot of resources as well. Also, you have the USMCA that the previous president signed into law, meaning that if you want to trade with somebody, I guess Latin America would be a very, very good trade partner. Also, something else too about these gas prices. And need I remind people of how much gas costed during the pandemic back in 2020 as opposed to post-pandemic? Yeah, Joe, when your administration holds up the permits and states that yeah, you guys have got to go through this, you've got to go through that right there to get the permits to actually drill. This right here is going to create a bit of a problem. Also, not to mention the fact that you've decided to, when you cut the Keystone XL pipeline, which, by the way, even Justin Trudeau did not like the idea of you doing that. Yeah, that right there kind of sort of made the price of gas go through the roof. But then again, though, you've got a dumbass like Elizabeth Warren who comes out here and blames the oil companies when even CNN, very, very liberal, lefty CNN, who, by the way, is a shield for the Democratic Party, states openly, CNN Business states that Elizabeth Warren is, quite frankly, a loon and she has lost her freaking mind and she is absolutely wrong on this. A lot of the issues with oil have got to go back to your administration's handling on the permit issue. If you made the permits easier for people to get, people could actually drill, the companies could actually get the oil could actually be distributed properly, and the price of gas itself would be much, much lower. You dig?
The draft of the court's majority holding in Roe versus Wade is the actual decision. What impact will the loss of abortion access mean economically for women?
Well, I believe that eliminating the right of women to make decisions about when and whether to have children would have very damaging effects on the economy and would set women back decades. Roe v. Wade and access to reproductive health care, including abortion, helped lead to increased labor force participation. It enabled many women to finish school. That increased their earning potential. It allowed women to plan and balance their families and careers. And research also shows that it had a favorable impact on the well-being and earnings of
Right. So you're telling me that overturning Roe v. Wade is the reason why our economy continues to get worse and worse and worse. So, you mean to tell me that in order for women to get to work, they've got to not have children, they've got to abort the child? Okay, so you mean that these ladies can't multitask? You mean that these ladies can't balance out a schedule? You mean that these ladies can't call a relative or a friend who's got a day off or maybe go to a daycare center? I mean, there is a such thing called school. You know, when kids get a certain age, they go to elementary school. But according to Janet Yellen, we've got to abort these kids. We've got to ensure these kids don't live so that way we can go back to work. I mean, I don't know if you guys are picking up on this, but this has kind of sort of been the theme of all my videos as of late, is that people on the left, people who believe in this crap, they don't exactly believe in accountability or responsibility. You dig? That right there is just a dumb statement, a very, very dumb take. But I want you guys to ask yourself a question really quick. Who is it that has the time to go out and protest every day? Who is it that has the time to go out and scream for crap? Who is it that has the time to go out and scream for free shit? That's right. That's right. Those who don't want to go to work. I mean, I've always wondered what these people do in their spare time when they're not outside screaming and hollering for free shit, and they're not outside screaming and hollering for abortions. I mean, these people here are people who either don't want to go to work, or B, they're unemployed, or C, they just, quite frankly, don't believe in any type of personal accountability or any type of responsibility in their lives. I mean, they prove that with their actions when they get upset about not being able to have an abortion in the state that they live in, which, by the way, that's all overturning Roe v. Wade does. It's just send the issue back to the states. But you got to ask yourself, who are these people? Who are these lonely, selfish, self-entitled people? I mean, who are they really? I mean, the only thing I'm seeing is just a bunch of crazy cat ladies, future dog people, future people who, quite frankly, just will never have a life. People who, quite frankly, are going to end up getting old, overweight, out of shape, just completely unattractive and undesirable people is what I see. And as you guys can see, they're already getting a head start by not trying to go to work. Now, the price of diesel. Now, guys, really, really quick. A lot of people in these cities, I mean, these same people who voted for Creepy Joe, a lot of these people don't seem to understand that their product comes to them by way of diesel truck, by way of 18-wheeler, by way of semis. Okay, these diesel trucks, by the way, burn a lot of fuel. And they burn a lot of fuel actually being stationary, meaning that if they got to sit on these bridges for a while, they're burning a lot of unnecessary fuel. So if the price of diesel goes up, this is going to affect people in cities the most, because you see people who live in rural and small towns, they tend to adapt to it much, much quicker. And of course, after a while, private diesel companies or private companies that deliver products, they're going to get a little bit upset, or they're going to be a little bit, now let's just say, not too keen to go into these cities that, quite frankly, have turned into absolute shitholes with crime and smug people who actually believe that people who drive trucks are beneath them. After a while, you're probably going to see the shortages get much, much worse. And to go on top of the current baby formula shortage, yeah, things are about to get very, very hairy. Which brings me to Chief Line in the Face. Yes, Chief Line in the Face sent out a tweet this morning. It took me a long time to find it because she may have deleted it. She decided to say, it's the oil companies, it's the billionaires. They're the ones causing these problems. Bitch. The billionaires are the ones who finance your campaigns, okay? They're the ones who actually finance your campaigns. They did that once Donald Trump got rid of the SALT provision, the state and local tax provision, that would have forced all the billionaires to pay their fair share in state tax. All right? So when anybody tells you that the Democrats are trying to punish the rich, just go ahead and know right away they're not doing that. They're punishing you. Also, something else, too, about these oil companies, if I did not already say it right away, these oil companies have got to drill, okay? They've got to drill. In order for them to drill on these lands, they got to get permits, okay? Right now, the current administration is holding up those permits, so therefore now we have ourselves a shortage. Also, something else to go on top of that, I got to mention it again, the Keystone Pipeline would have kept the price of gas half the price of what it is now. Need I remind you what the price of gas was on November the 7th during the middle of a pandemic, as opposed to today during a pandemic that, quite frankly, is non-existent. And to go on top of this statement, let me go ahead and just add this right here. Joe, you've been around since the time of Methuselah, okay? You've been in Washington, D.C. for a very, very long time. I mean, you ran on being able to get things done. You ran on uniting the country. You ran on your experience, which, by the way, your experience was pretty freaking bad. I highly advise you guys go look at his actual experience in Washington, D.C. Also, something else, too. Don't complain about not having a majority. I mean, Joe, you've got like a 51-50 advantage in the Senate if you count Queen Harris. And then to go on top of that, even though it's a 51-50, you've still got about 4 or 5 Republicans that find ways to side with you. Rob Portman sides with you. Let us not forget about Mitt Romney. Let us not forget about Susan Collins. Let us not forget about Lisa Murkowski or Mitch McConnell, who, by the way, I'm hitting right now, too, because he acts like the war in Ukraine is the chief issue, and it's obviously not. The American people need to be taken care of first. I mean, your predecessor came in there, and he was able to get things done. I mean, he got a lot done, which, by the way, we're not going to go through this entire video, or else the video would be about 2 hours long. But, Joe, you can't sit here and tell us that it's MAGA Republicans' fault when you have been around for a while. I mean, don't you know how to negotiate? Don't you guys know how to, don't you know how to actually do this? Oh, wait, that's right. You're not really and truly in charge of this country. Barack Hussein Obama is. That's right, Barack Obama. Yeah, that's right. When he was in office, he was there the first 2 years with a supermajority. He slammed through Obamacare, and he slammed through a massively large stimulus plan, which, by the way, of course, devalues our dollar every time you spend a bunch of money. So, of course, inflation is going to occur. By the way, that inflation, it's been occurring for a very, very long time. When you spend money or you spend more than you can actually make, you're going to actually create a much, much bigger bubble, which is going to make the value of the dollar go down. So, yeah, Joe, you've been in office since the time of Methuselah. You've been in Washington, D.C. for a very, very long time, and you still haven't figured that out. Or it's very, very possible that maybe you know this, you don't really care, and your voters, quite frankly, did not look at your background and did not see that your entire life in politics, you've been an absolute failure, and it's just now showing. And to add one more thing on Barack Obama, you see, when Obama was in office, okay, and I have to use Obama because Obama was the exact opposite of other presidents. You see, when Donald Trump was in office in 2019, he did get something done in a bipartisan way. It was called the First Step Act. He was able to negotiate with Democrats on that issue, and he was able to get that done. When Bill Clinton was in office, once Republicans took over the House and the Senate, what did? They negotiated tax cuts, they negotiated welfare reform, they negotiated all kinds of great stuff. Joe's not going to do this because, of course, it's being handled by Barack Obama. When Barack Obama was in office, the only thing he did was just attack Republicans. I mean, he had a supermajority his first 2 years, and he didn't fix anything. Then the next 2 years before his reelection, he didn't really do anything there either. He had a Republican Congress, but he still had a pretty sizable lead in the United States. And he had like a 6-seat advantage and still didn't get anything done. Even Barack Obama's party did not think he could get things done, and quite frankly, they tried to get him to get things done. But of course, Obama did not even do it. So this right here, Joe Biden blaming Republicans for all this right here, does not surprise me because it's kind of sort of the MO of the Obama administration. Blame everybody about yourself. Blame everybody, and at the same time, not take any accountability or any actual personal responsibility for your own screw-ups. In summary, who's at fault here? Is it MAGA Republicans? Let's take a look at it, Joe. The minute you got in office, what's the first thing you did? You started undoing the previous administration's executive orders. One of those executive orders was, of course, on insulin. The previous president had signed an executive order making insulin much, much cheaper. You undid that right there. You then allowed the border to get completely ransacked. That's number two. So right now we got a flow of illegal immigration coming in that is depressing people's wages to go on top of the inflation, which, by the way, could have been handled by a much, much smarter person. You also then suspended the permits on the Keystone Pipeline, making our gas astronomically higher. You also put in place permits that, quite frankly, were outrageous, which by the way, the red tape was absolutely insane for people to actually go and actually get. That's what I mean when I say outrageous. So therefore, now we have ourselves an oil problem. Okay, number two, you put a bunch of flunkies in charge of transportation. Hence the idea of supply shortages. Next, let's see, what else did you do? Let's see, because yeah, that's right, pulling the sanctions off the Nord 2 pipeline and also botching with the Afghanistan withdrawal gave Putin the green light to go in Ukraine. Not to mention all your business dealings there. So who is at fault over this, right, Joe? Who in the hell is really and truly at fault over this? Joe, it's not you who is at fault. No. It's not you. It's not Joe Biden's fault that this entire thing is going to hell. No, it's not. It's just Joe Biden's voters who basically, for the most part, reside in cities. Guys, John Claymore here. If you guys like this content, hit the like button, subscribe, share the video, sign up in the comment section, and I'll see you guys later.